In the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, hundreds of alien species gathered under a sky of shining crystals. The air was filled with noise, laughter, and arrogance. The council had met to discuss the long-forgotten species, known as humanity. Holograms of old Earth cities flickered on the table. Images of blue oceans, green forests, and burning wars. One alien, a tall creature with scales that shimmered like gold, raised his voice. "Humans," he said with a cruel smile. "The only species foolish enough to destroy their own world." The room filled with laughter. Another alien, with glowing eyes and mechanical limbs, added mockingly, "They thought they could reach the stars. Now they are nothing but dust." For centuries, aliens told stories about humanity as a warning, a joke that reminded others not to repeat the same mistakes. The galaxy had moved on without them. No human signal had been detected for more than 300 years. In the eyes of the universe, humanity was extinct. But at the edge of known space, something stirred. The stars there began to flicker unnaturally, as if a veil was being lifted. Deep space scanners picked up strange readings, a tear in the fabric of reality itself. The council's laughter faded when the alarms began to sound. "An anomaly has opened near Sector 9, reported a nervous officer. The council turned silent. "It's growing," the officer continued. "Energy levels unknown. It's not like any wormhole we've seen." The alien leaders exchanged uneasy glances. Wormholes were dangerous, yes, but familiar. This was something different. The sensors could not identify it. Space around the anomaly bent like a mirror of liquid light. The golden-scaled alien frowned. "Show it on screen," he ordered. A massive hologram appeared above the chamber. They watched as the anomaly expanded, a swirling storm of colors twisting into itself. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, from within the storm, a shadow appeared, long, dark, and sharp-edged. "It's a ship," whispered someone. "But whose?" The ship slowly emerged, covered in dark metal plates, glowing with soft blue light. Across its surface were markings, ancient and forgotten. One of the alien historians gasped, his voice trembling. "Those symbols, they're human." The council erupted in disbelief. "Impossible," shouted the scaled alien. "Humans vanished. They had no ships left." But the hologram didn't lie. The ship grew clearer, its colossal size dwarfing even the largest alien dreadnoughts. Its engines were silent, yet the energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. Then the chamber lights flickered. Static filled the comms. Every alien in the room froze as a voice echoed through every frequency, clear and strong, speaking in galactic common. "This is the UHS Eternity," the voice said, "reporting for duty." The silence that followed was heavy and unreal. It was a human voice. Calm, confident, powerful. The aliens stared at one another, unable to believe what they were hearing. How is this possible?" whispered the mechanical alien. "Their homeworld was destroyed." The historian shook his head slowly. "It seems they found another." Outside, the massive warship turned slowly, its hull reflecting the dying stars. Across its side, in bold white letters, was written the name, UHS Eternity, and beneath it, the symbol of Earth. Every sensor in the galaxy was now locked on the ship. Fleets began moving toward it. Scientists sent probes, and intelligence networks buzzed with panic. Who had built this ship? How had humanity survived? And most importantly, what did they want? Inside the ship, humans moved through shining corridors, their faces calm but cold. They wore dark uniforms marked with a strange insignia, a circle surrounded by 3 rings of light. At the center sat Admiral Kane, staring out at the endless stars. His voice was low, filled with quiet strength. "They mocked us," he said. "They forgot who we were." A young officer turned to him. "Orders, sir?" Kane smiled faintly. "Transmit our presence. Let them know humanity has returned." The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every alien world received the same signal, the same voice, the same words. "This is the United Human Ship Eternity. We are back." On the Council planets, fear replaced laughter. The same aliens who had mocked humanity now stared at the stars with trembling hearts. "If they survived the void between dimensions," said one alien in a shaking voice, What have they become? No one answered. Somewhere beyond the glowing galaxies, the UHS Eternity prepared to move again. Its engines hummed with power not found in any known science. Around it, reality seemed to bend slightly, as if the ship itself did not belong to this universe. Admiral Kane stood before the observation deck, his reflection in the glass merging with the stars. For centuries, he said softly, they laughed at us. But today they will remember. The ship's lights brightened, engines flared, and space itself seemed to ripple. In one flash of light, the UHS Eternity disappeared, leaving behind only a whisper carried through the cosmic winds. Humanity has returned. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Every major empire, every military outpost, every science vessel across the stars was talking about one thing: the return of humanity. The sudden appearance of the massive warship, UHS Eternity, had shaken the very foundation of interstellar order. No one had seen anything like it. Its technology defied explanation, its energy readings broke every known scale, and its sudden arrival from a dimensional rift was something only myths dared to describe. But to the humans aboard the Eternity, this was not a miracle. It was the result of centuries of struggle, pain, and survival beyond the limits of time itself. On the bridge of the Eternity, Admiral Kane stood silent, his eyes fixed on the holographic map that showed the endless expanse of alien worlds. Around him, his officers worked in calm precision, their movements exact, their expressions controlled. These were not the same humans the galaxy once knew. They had changed, evolved, hardened by the unimaginable journey through another dimension. Status on communication scans. Kane asked quietly. A young officer responded. Every major civilization is watching us, sir. They're afraid. Kane gave a faint smile. Good. Let them listen. He turned toward the main console. Open the broadcast. Across the galaxy, millions of screens flickered to life. On every planet, in every station, a human face appeared, Admiral Kane's. His voice was steady, deep, filled with quiet strength. To all who can hear this message, he said, we are the descendants of Earth, the lost children of humanity. We were thought to be gone, but we survived. We endured the void between dimensions, and we have returned. His words echoed across the stars. Some aliens watched in silence, others in disbelief. A few even laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of elaborate trick. But when the broadcast ended, no one was laughing. The ship they had seen, the technology it carried. There was no question that humanity had become something far beyond ordinary life. In the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. The golden-scaled alien slammed his fist on the table. This cannot be tolerated. Humans are dangerous. They almost destroyed their own world. Another alien, smaller but sharper, replied. Maybe they have learned. Maybe they can help us. Help us, the scaled alien growled. Or rule us. No one answered. Fear had crept into every mind. Meanwhile, on the Eternity, Kane stood before a viewing window, watching the faint lights of distant stars. His second-in-command, Commander Alara Voss, approached. The Council will react soon, she said. They'll see us as a threat. Kane nodded. They always did. Even before. Alara hesitated. Do we reveal the truth? About where we've been? Kane's gaze darkened. Not yet. They wouldn't understand. Her eyes softened. Sometimes I wonder if we understand it ourselves. Kane said nothing. His thoughts drifted back to the past, to the day humanity had faced extinction. Earth had been dying, the atmosphere poisoned, resources gone, nations collapsing under war and greed. But in the middle of that chaos, a project had been born, a desperate gamble called Project Dimension Gate. Scientists had discovered a strange energy field hidden within quantum space, something that existed between realities. They believed it could be used to travel beyond the known universe. The plan was dangerous, impossible even. Most governments refused to support it. But when the last war began, humanity had no choice. They built the first dimensional engine beneath the ruins of old New York, powered by what remained of Earth's fusion core. Billions died in the process, but the gate opened. The few who survived, the brightest minds, the last soldiers, the final hope of a dying species, entered the unknown. What they found on the other side was not another galaxy, but something beyond imagination. A dimension where time and space follow different rules. A place of light and silence, where thoughts shape matter and will create energy. Humanity was changed there. Their bodies evolved, their minds expanded. They learned to control dimensional energy itself, to bend reality in ways no alien civilization could comprehend. And after 3 centuries of that strange existence, they built the Warship Eternity, a vessel capable of crossing the boundaries between dimensions. For them, returning to this universe was not an invasion. It was homecoming. Back in the present, Kane closed his eyes, remembering the voices of the old world, the cries of Earth's final days. He whispered to himself, "We were forgotten, but we never forgot." Ilara turned to the comm officer. "Any response from a council?" "They're broadcasting a message, ma'am," he replied nervously. "They're calling for a summit. They want to meet us." Kane smirked. "They want to see if the ghosts are real." The summons from the council was cautious but urgent. Representatives from 12 alien species had agreed to gather at the neutral space station known as Varelian Prime. Kane accepted the invitation. "Prepare a delegation," he ordered. "We'll show them what humanity has become." As the Eternity approached the massive station, thousands of alien ships hovered at a distance, their weapons armed but silent. The warship glided forward, its dark hull reflecting the light of a nearby star. To the aliens, it looked less like a machine and more like a living creature, something ancient and unstoppable. When the humans entered the council chamber, the noise faded instantly. Every alien turned to stare at them. These tall figures with calm faces and eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies. Kane stepped forward and bowed slightly. "We come in peace," he said. The golden-scaled alien scoffed. "Peace or domination?" Kane met his gaze without fear. "That depends," he said quietly, "on how you treat us this time." The alien leaned back uneasy. There was something in the human's voice that sent a chill through the room. Not anger, not pride, something deeper, something that spoke of survival beyond reason. Kane looked around the chamber, his eyes hard as steel. "You laughed at humanity," he said, "but the story isn't over yet." The warship UHS Eternity remained in silent orbit above the neutral station Varelian Prime. Its dark metal surface shimmered under the light of the twin suns, like a beast resting before a storm. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the tension was heavy enough to crush the air. The alien delegates whispered among themselves, their eyes flicking toward the human representatives as if afraid to blink. Admiral Kane stood calm at the center of the room, his hands behind his back, his expression unreadable. Commander Ilara Voss stood slightly behind him, scanning the reactions of the gathered species. They were surrounded by guards, though none dared to move closer. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the golden-scaled alien, Counselor Draith, broke the silence. "You come here," he hissed, "with your warship from another dimension, claiming peace. Yet you arrive armed. Do you think we are fools?" Kane turned his gaze toward him, his voice even and steady. "We come armed because we remember what happened the last time we trusted this galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the hall. The statement was calm, but it carried the weight of centuries. Draith slammed his clawed hand on the table. "You destroyed your own world. You were a danger to yourselves and to the stars. Why should we believe you have changed?" Kane looked directly at him. "Because we had to change to survive. Because we saw what lies beyond your understanding. And because we came not for war, but for balance." His words made some of the younger delegates lean forward, curious despite their fear. "Balance," one of them asked softly. Ilara Voss stepped forward. "For centuries, your empires have fought each other. You conquer, enslave, exploit. You claim order, but all we see is fear. Humanity was wiped out because we were weak and divided. We will not allow that to happen again to anyone." Her voice was clear and controlled, but there was fire behind it. For a brief moment, some aliens looked ashamed. But Draith sneered. "Fine words from a ghost species. Yet your ship violates every known law of physics. You speak of peace while carrying a weapon that can destroy planets." Kane tilted his head. If we wanted to destroy, we already would have. The room went cold. No one spoke after that. Finally, the council leader, an ancient creature made of shimmering light, spoke in a deep voice that echoed softly. We request that you power down your weapons and allow our scientists to study your technology. Only then can we begin talks of peace. Kane gave a faint smile, almost sad. That will not happen. The leader's glow dimmed slightly. Then what do you offer, human? Kane raised his hand and a small hologram appeared in the air, a map of the outer galaxies. Several red zones flashed on it. Pirate fleets, slave empires, rogue warlords. You've ignored them for centuries because they don't threaten your wealth. They destroy worlds. They burn colonies, and you call it balance. Humanity will deal with them. Dratha's eyes narrowed. You will interfere with our politics. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Kane said simply. If that is interference, so be it. The council exploded into arguments. Voices shouted, some angry, some fearful, some even impressed. Kane and Alara turned and walked out without another word. Outside, the station corridors buzzed with tension. Alien soldiers followed them at a distance, recording every step. When they reached the docking bay, Alara finally spoke. They'll attack us. You know that, right? Kane nodded. Yes, they have to. Fear always fires first. She sighed. Then what do we do? Kane looked out the viewport, where the eternity floated like a sleeping titan. We show them what they fear. Minutes later, the first fleet arrived. A coalition of alien warships surrounded the eternity, their weapons hot, shields raised. The broadcast went live across every channel in the galaxy. This is Council Command, came Dratha's voice. Human ship, you are ordered to power down your engines and surrender your dimensional core. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. On the bridge of the eternity, the crew watched calmly. Kane stood at the command platform, hands clasped behind him. Transmit a response, he said. The communications officer nodded. Across the galaxy, Kane's voice was heard again. This is Admiral Kane of the United Human Ship Eternity. We will not surrender. We will not attack unless fired upon. But understand this, our technology is not meant for war. It is meant for survival. If you fire on us, you fire on the laws of your own universe. The council fleet hesitated, unsure whether to believe him. Then Dratha's voice roared through the comms. All ships, open fire. The void lit up with plasma beams and energy blasts. Dozens of bright bolts streaked toward the eternity, but instead of exploding, they vanished, absorbed into invisible waves rippling around the ship. The alien commanders shouted in confusion. Our weapons have no effect. Shields at maximum, but the readings are weight, they're bending space. The eternity did not move, did not fire back. It simply absorbed the assault, like a mountain against a storm. Then Kane spoke softly. Activate dimensional veil. A low hum filled the ship. The space around it began to shimmer and fold, like reality itself was afraid. From the eternity's hull, blue light expanded outward, touching the enemy ships. Their weapons froze mid-fire. Their engines stopped. Time itself slowed around them. Inside the alien ships, crews panicked as systems failed. Kane's voice echoed once more. This is what you call power, but this is restraint. He turned to Alara. End it. The light vanished, and suddenly all the alien ships powered down. None were destroyed, but all were left drifting, disabled, their systems reset. Across the galaxy, the broadcast showed the entire event. Billions watched in stunned silence. Humanity had not fired a single shot, yet defeated a fleet of hundreds. The message was clear. The humans had returned, and they were not to be mocked again. As the eternity turned slowly and vanished back into the dimensional veil, one thought echoed across the stars, a whisper of fear and wonder combined. Humanity had not come for war. They had come to remind the galaxy that even the forgotten can rise again. The galaxy was silent after the display of humanity's power. Across the council worlds, alien leaders struggled to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Hundreds of fleets had fired upon the UHS Eternity, yet none had even scratched its hull. Some whispered of divine protection, Others spoke of forbidden technology. Rumors spread faster than light itself, reaching the smallest colonies, the remote mining stations, and the farthest edges of known space. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy trembled. Inside the Eternity, Admiral Kane and Commander Alara Voss moved through the ship's corridors, their footsteps echoing softly against the metal floors. The crew was calm, disciplined, but beneath the quiet there was a sense of anticipation. Humanity had been gone for centuries, but their mission remained the same: survival and reclamation. Kane stopped at the observation deck, staring out at the stars that had once seemed unreachable. "We cannot allow them to think we are weak," he said, almost to himself. "We survived when all thought we were dead. Now we must show them what that means." Alara joined him, her eyes scanning the distant flickers of alien signals. "They fear us," she said, "but some are curious too." Kane nodded. Curiosity can be dangerous. It makes them reach for answers they are not ready to understand. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien scientists worked tirelessly to analyze what little information they could gather. Drones and probes had tried to scan the Eternity, but every attempt failed. Some probes were destroyed instantly. Others returned with unreadable data. Every civilization scrambled to make sense of the human sudden mastery over dimensional travel, a power that had been considered theoretical and impossible. Counselors argued for weeks. Some demanded preemptive strikes. Others warned that attacking humanity could lead to the destruction of entire sectors. The Golden Scale Drafe remained furious. "These humans mock us," he growled. "They appear at will. Their ships are invincible, and they refuse to fight unless we provoke them. We cannot allow this to continue." But the Light Counselor, the ancient being of radiance, shook its glowing form. "They're not here for conquest, Drafe. That much is clear. Humanity acts with purpose, but not with malice." On board the Eternity, the humans prepared for the next phase of their mission. They needed to establish communication, not only with the Council, but with the smaller colonies that had suffered under decades of war and oppression. Their goal was to show that humanity had changed, that they had grown stronger, wiser, and more disciplined. Kane called a meeting of his senior officers. "We must act carefully," he said. "We have power, yes, but power alone does not win allies. We must earn trust, show restraint, and demonstrate that humanity has the wisdom to lead, not just survive." Alara spoke next. "Our first contact should be with the colonies nearest to the border sectors. They have been abandoned for too long. If we help them, the Council will see that our intentions are genuine." Kane nodded. "Agreed. Prepare teams to travel to these colonies. Send supplies, medical aid, and advanced technology for infrastructure. But nothing aggressive. Nothing that can be used as a weapon." The first missions were dispatched within hours. Humans arrived on barren worlds, war-torn planets, and devastated colonies. They rebuilt hospitals, restored communication networks, and re-established governance where none remained. Word spread quickly. The message was clear. Humanity had returned not for revenge, but for balance. Alien leaders watched with disbelief as populations who had once suffered under oppression began to thrive again. Children returned to schools, crops were replanted, water systems repaired, and trade routes reopened. Kane observed these reports with quiet satisfaction. "They will see us not as ghosts, but as a force that brings order and hope," he said. But humanity's return also sparked envy and fear. Some council members began plotting. They sent spies aboard human vessels, attempting to steal technology or learn the secrets of dimensional travel. A few managed to board the Eternity, only to find corridors empty, security protocols flawless, and the humans' technology incomprehensible. No one could bypass the dimensional veil or the security grids, which bent light and reality around them. One scientist managed to send a single report back to his world. He wrote in trembling handwriting, "They are not just humans anymore. They are something beyond, something that manipulates space itself. They will not be contained." Meanwhile, Kane convened a private council of his own. "We are not here to dominate," he reminded his officers. "We are here to survive and guide, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy will test us, push us, and try to provoke us into mistakes. We cannot give them that chance. Ilara nodded. And the council? Draith will not stop plotting. Kane's eyes hardened. Let him plot. Let him fear. The more they underestimate us, the stronger our position becomes. But we must never let arrogance guide us. Humanity survived because we were careful, patient, and relentless. That is what will keep us alive now. As the Eternity moved silently through the void toward its next mission, the galaxy watched, fearful and awed. Humanity had returned from beyond the stars, carrying with them technology, wisdom, and strength that no one could understand. The message was clear to all who witnessed it. Humans were no longer the weak, dying species of old. They were a force beyond reckoning, capable of changing the course of history across multiple worlds. And somewhere deep within the ship, Admiral Kane smiled faintly, his mind focused on the challenges ahead. Humanity had returned not just to survive, but to remind the universe that even the forgotten could rise and reshape reality itself. The galaxy was slowly coming to terms with the sudden return of humanity. News of the Eternity's power and restraint spread like wildfire, leaving entire systems in awe and terror. But not all were pleased. Among the alien empires, fear was growing into anger. The golden-scaled Counselor Draith paced before his advisors, his claws scraping against the polished council floor. "We cannot let them think they can move freely," he growled. "They are dangerous, unpredictable, and they ignore our authority. Humanity must be controlled, contained, or eliminated." Some council members nodded in agreement, but others hesitated. The ancient light counselor spoke softly, its glowing form flickering. "Do you not see? They have demonstrated restraint. They are not seeking conquest. Perhaps we should consider their offer, or at least their intentions, before we act in haste." Draith's eyes narrowed. Intentions mean nothing if their existence threatens everything we have built. Meanwhile, aboard the UHS Eternity, Admiral Kane reviewed the latest reports from the colonies humanity had aided. Planets once ravaged by war were showing signs of recovery. Water systems were restored, crops replanted, and cities partially rebuilt. Communications that had been silent for decades buzzed with life again. Kane's second-in-command, Commander Ilara Voss, stood beside him. "The people are grateful," she said. "They see humanity not as conquerors, but as protectors." Kane nodded, his gaze distant. "Good. That is the first step. Influence comes not through fear alone, but through hope." Ilara frowned. "And the council? Draith is planning something. I can feel it." Kane's expression darkened. "Let him plan. Let him fear. Every empire underestimates humanity. That is their mistake." In the distant reaches of space, small scouting vessels detected strange activity. Several alien fleets were moving secretly toward human-controlled colonies, attempting to spy, steal resources, or incite rebellion. Kane convened a war council on the Eternity. "We must be ready," he said. "Our mission is to protect those who cannot protect themselves, but that does not mean we will be blindsided. Prepare defense systems, but remain passive unless provoked." Ilara nodded. "Understood, sir. But what about the council fleets? They will not wait for provocation." Kane leaned over the holographic map. Red markers showed alien movements near vulnerable worlds. "We will observe first. Any hostile action will be met with measured response. We do not start wars. We end them before they begin." On one of the outer colonies, humans began training local populations in basic defense, teaching them to protect themselves without relying on weapons of mass destruction. It was slow work, but essential. Humanity wanted allies, not slaves. In council chambers across the galaxy, debate raged. Some aliens began whispering of alliances with humans, hoping to benefit from their advanced knowledge. Others, driven by jealousy and fear, plotted sabotage. Draith's minions tried to infiltrate human colonies, only to find advanced security they could not bypass. One spy reported back in terror. "The technology, it does not obey the rules of physics. It bends space itself. Our weapons cannot touch it." Kane received these reports with calm acceptance. "Let them try," he said softly. "Fear is their ally and our teacher." Weeks passed, and humanity's presence began to change the balance of power. Trade routes reopened, pirate fleets were disbanded without violence, and small wars ended as humans mediated disputes. Everywhere, their reputation grew. But the Council remained wary. Draith continued to press for aggressive action, sending envoys to probe weaknesses, while other counselors warned restraint. Kane knew that eventually, confrontation was inevitable. One evening, he stood at the observation deck with Alara. Below them, a colony planet glowed with life, a symbol of humanity's influence. "Do you ever wonder," Alara asked quietly, "if we are doing the right thing? Showing mercy, helping them, will they ever trust us?" Kane did not answer immediately. He watched the stars, remembering centuries spent in the void, the endless struggle to survive, the lessons learned beyond the limits of reality. Finally, he spoke. "Trust is earned, not demanded, and humanity has waited a long time to show the galaxy who we are. We act with purpose, not arrogance. That is how trust is built." Alara nodded slowly. "And if Draith attacks us?" Kane's eyes hardened. "Then we will be ready, but we will not provoke him. Patience is more powerful than any weapon." Across the galaxy, alien leaders debated the humans' growing influence. Some colonies sent messages asking for more help, more guidance, more technology. Humanity's restraint inspired loyalty, even admiration, in places that had once despised them. Draith seethed, watching his influence wane. "We cannot allow them to grow stronger," he muttered. "We must act before it is too late." Kane, aboard the Eternity, prepared his next moves. He knew the galaxy would test him, try to provoke him into war, but humanity had learned patience and strategy in the void between dimensions. The first test would come soon, and Kane intended to be ready. "They laughed at us," he said quietly to Alara, "but now they see that humanity is not to be underestimated, and they will remember this lesson, whether they want to or not." The stars beyond the observation deck shimmered, the distant worlds alive with activity and hope. Humanity had returned, not to conquer, but to guide, to protect, and to survive. And in the vast silence of space, one truth echoed across every corner of the galaxy. The forgotten had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The calm that had settled across the galaxy was about to be shattered. Weeks of observation, diplomacy, and silent influence had left humanity in a position of quiet power, but it had also stirred resentment and fear among the older empires. The golden-scaled Counselor Draith could no longer tolerate the humans' presence. He gathered a coalition of fleets from several allied systems, vessels bristling with weapons and ready to assert dominance. "We strike now," he hissed to his commanders. "Show them that the galaxy does not bend to ghosts." Meanwhile, aboard the UHS Eternity, Admiral Kane monitored alien movements with steady precision. The sensors detected the gathering fleets, their energy signatures, flickering like anger itself. Kane stood on the observation deck, his arms crossed, silent, calculating. Commander Alara Voss joined him. "They're moving faster than we expected," she said, her eyes narrowing. Kane's gaze remained fixed on the distant fleets. "Let them come. Let them test us. They will learn the meaning of restraint and power." The fleets advanced in formation, hundreds of alien ships glinting with deadly intent. Red energy beams arced across the void, and automated warning systems blared in the eternity. Yet the humans did not scramble into battle stations. They observed, studied, and waited. Kane turned to his communications officer. "Broadcast to all hostile fleets," he instructed. "Make it clear. We will not attack unless provoked, but any aggression will be met with a response beyond your comprehension." Across the galaxy, the message spread instantly. Thousands of screens, millions of signals, carried Kane's voice. Calm, firm, unyielding. "This is Admiral Kane of the United Human Ship Eternity. We come in peace, but we will not be threatened. Do not mistake restraint for weakness." The alien fleets faltered, some lowering shields slightly, unsure whether the humans were bluffing. Draith, enraged, shouted orders. "Fire everything. Show them that arrogance has consequences." Energy weapons lit up the void, a storm of plasma and beams racing toward the eternity. The humans stood silently, monitoring every shot. At the command, Kane activated the ship's dimensional defenses. The space around the Eternity shimmered and bent, ripples forming like liquid glass over the incoming fire. Shots impacted the barrier, only to vanish without effect. Alien ships faltered, their attacks rendered useless by technology they could not understand. Kane turned to Alara. Open the veil fully. The ship's hull began to glow, faint energy lines spreading outward. Space itself seemed to twist and fold around the Eternity. Time and distance became fluid. Alien sensors went haywire. Fleets lost formation as navigation systems failed. Some ships drifted uncontrollably. Others spun as if caught in a gravity storm that did not exist. Panic rippled through the Council fleets. Drath's voice trembled as he barked orders, but nothing worked. The humans had not fired a single shot, yet their presence alone controlled the battlefield. Kane's voice cut through the silence of the Eternity. Deploy dimensional echoes. From the ship, smaller warcraft slipped through the folds of reality. They emerged behind enemy lines, invisible to the naked eye, capable of observing without being observed. Some fleets attempted to engage them, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the phasing ships. The humans had become untouchable specters, masters of space itself. Alara spoke softly. They cannot even see us. Kane nodded, and they will never forget this lesson. Hours passed as the fleet struggled against the humans' power. Ships were immobilized, forced into defensive positions, unable to strike or retreat effectively. Drath's forces began to lose cohesion. Fear and confusion spread faster than any fire. Then Kane gave the final command. Stand down. Instantly, the dimensional fields receded. Human warcraft returned to normal space, visible but still untouched. Alien fleets had suffered no physical damage, yet they were immobilized and humbled. Across the galaxy, the broadcast showed every moment, every impossible maneuver. The message was unmistakable. Humanity could destroy entire fleets without firing a shot. Kane addressed the Council fleets directly. You see our power. We do not use it lightly. Humanity seeks neither conquest nor revenge. We act to preserve life, not to dominate it. Remember this day, for it will define the future. Silence followed. Drath's fury boiled, but there was no longer open challenge. His fleets retreated slowly, fearful of further exposure. Humanity had demonstrated strength beyond comprehension, tempered with restraint. Kane turned to Alara as the Eternity prepared to depart. The galaxy knows our limits now, he said, and they will respect them, or they will suffer consequences far greater than today. Alara looked at the stars, her eyes reflecting the glow of distant worlds. Do you think this will stop Drath? Kane shook his head. No, fear is never enough, but it gives us time to prepare, to build alliances, to shape the galaxy before they act again. As the Eternity slipped back into the folds of dimensional space, leaving alien fleets disoriented and shaken, a message spread across every major system. Humanity had returned. They had power that no one could challenge, yet they wielded it with purpose, restraint, and intelligence. The galaxy would remember this day, and it would remember the lesson. Humanity was no longer a species to be mocked. They had returned from beyond dimensions, stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. And in the cold silence of space, one thought echoed through every listening mind. Humanity had come not for war, but if war was forced upon them, no force in the galaxy could withstand their might. The galaxy had learned to fear and respect humanity, but the humans aboard the UHS Eternity knew their work was only beginning. After the demonstration of power against Drath's fleets, attention turned to the smaller, forgotten worlds that had suffered under neglect, piracy, and oppression. These were colonies abandoned by their governing empires, left to starve or fight amongst themselves. Humanity's mission was clear. They would bring order, hope, and protection, but not domination. Admiral Kane convened a council of senior officers in the Eternity Strategy Room. Holographic displays of remote systems floated above the table, each planet marked with its level of need and danger. Our first priority, Kane said, is to stabilize these colonies. We must show that humanity returns not to conquer, but to preserve life and civilization. Commander Alara Voss pointed to a cluster of 3 nearby planets. These have been raided repeatedly by pirates and mercenaries. Local governance collapsed long ago. They need immediate assistance. Kane nodded. Prepare teams. We will provide supplies, technology, and guidance. Minimal interference, maximum support. We are not here to rule, only to restore. Within hours, human vessels arrived at the first colony, a desolate world with scorched plains and crumbling cities. The humans deployed aid rapidly. Engineers repaired water systems, medical teams treated the sick, and construction crews began rebuilding critical infrastructure. Colonists watched in awe as humans moved with precision and authority, but without arrogance. Children laughed again as schools reopened, markets buzzed with activity, and hope returned where despair had reigned for decades. The message was simple yet powerful. Humanity had returned, and their return brought life. Yet, even as they rebuilt, there were whispers of unease. Alien observers, both from the Council and independent spies, tried to study the humans' technology and methods. They found systems that seemed to bend reality, energy manipulation beyond comprehension, and security measures that defied physics itself. One infiltrating team reported back, "We cannot touch them. Their technology ignores every law we know. It is alive in a way we do not understand." Kane received these reports calmly. Let them watch in fear. The unknown is a lesson many civilizations fail to learn. As the humans moved to the next colonies, they faced remnants of aggression. Pirates attempted ambushes, mercenary forces tried to exploit the chaos, but the humans were ready. Using advanced technology and tactical precision, they neutralized threats without unnecessary destruction. No lives were wasted, and order was restored swiftly. Every action was measured, deliberate, and designed to inspire confidence rather than fear. Word of humanity's interventions spread faster than light across nearby systems. Colonists sent messages to neighboring worlds, detailing the assistance they had received, the protection offered, and the wisdom shared. Alien leaders, even those hesitant to acknowledge the humans, began to see a shift in influence. Drath's anger grew as reports came in. He called meetings with allied empires, attempting to strategize a response. "Their actions are not random," he snapped. "They are gaining loyalty, forging influence. If we do not act, they will control every corner of the galaxy without firing a single shot." Other council members hesitated. Some whispered that Drath had underestimated humanity, that the species had evolved beyond their comprehension. Others feared provoking Kane and the Eternity further. On board the warship, Kane observed these developments with quiet satisfaction. "Influence is stronger than fear," he said to Alara. "Power without respect is wasted. We build both, and then the galaxy will follow reason instead of chaos." Alara nodded. "And the Council? Drath will never accept this quietly." Kane's eyes hardened. "No, but the galaxy is vast. Patience is our greatest weapon. We act where we are needed, and we remain prepared where danger is inevitable." Humanity's interventions also carried a hidden layer of preparation. Scientists and engineers aboard the Eternity worked tirelessly to study dimensional energy, adapt it to practical uses, and train select humans in its application. They developed systems that could heal planets, stabilize unstable environments, and even manipulate matter on small scales. This was not magic, Kane reminded his officers, but the evolution of science beyond ordinary understanding. Meanwhile, colonies that had received help began to thrive. Farms flourished, trade resumed, and small industries returned. Populations grew healthier, safer, and more organized. In time, these worlds became examples for others, a testament to humanity's influence and wisdom. Kane observed each success with careful planning. Every action was designed to teach, protect, and inspire, not to dominate. Yet he knew Drath's plots would continue. Spies, saboteurs, and diplomats would test humanity's patience. Kane was ready for them. "The galaxy will come to us for guidance," he said. "Some will resist, some will fear, but all will learn that humanity is no longer weak, no longer forgotten. We survived the void, we mastered what others could not, and now we bring balance." The humans continued their journey from colony to colony, leaving behind hope, structure, and a sense of security the galaxy had not seen in centuries. Humanity had returned not just as survivors, but as protectors, mediators, and teachers. And while Draith and his allies plotted in the shadows, the truth became clear. The presence of humanity was not merely a demonstration of power. It was a revelation. They were a species reborn, capable of reshaping the fate of entire worlds, not through violence, but through wisdom, action, and the quiet authority of those who had faced oblivion and survived. And as the Eternity moved onward to its next mission, one thought echoed across its bridge. The galaxy would never forget humanity again. The galaxy had begun to take notice of humanity's growing influence, and with notice came curiosity, and curiosity led to risk. Among the alien civilizations, some could not resist investigating the humans' incredible technology and the mysteries of the UHS Eternity. Reports of spies and infiltrators began arriving aboard the ship, though none succeeded. Humanity's security measures were unmatched, blending advanced dimensional shielding with tactical foresight that seemed almost prescient. One night, an alien scientist managed to board a smaller human vessel under the guise of diplomatic envoys. He was cautious, careful, and utterly confident that he could observe without being detected. Inside, he marveled at the clean corridors, the quiet hum of energy running through walls, and the seamless operation of crew and systems. Yet as he moved deeper into the ship, he began to notice oddities. Lights bent unnaturally around corners. Objects seemed to flicker in and out of place. Shadows shifted independently of their sources. The air was filled with a strange tension, as if the ship itself was alive and aware of his presence. He pressed on, entering the engineering bay, only to find that all systems were inaccessible to his devices. Holographic interfaces shimmered, but any attempt to interface was met with failure. Data streams seemed to flow backward and forward simultaneously, information unreadable yet seemingly complete. The alien scientist realized he had no control, no access, and no understanding. He moved further, driven by both fear and fascination. Then he stumbled upon a chamber sealed by unknown energy. Inside, he found the dimensional core, the heart of the eternity. It pulsed with light, shifting in color and intensity, like a living entity. He could feel it resonating through his body, as if reading his thoughts, assessing his intentions. Panic rose in him. This was not merely technology. This was intelligence, awareness, and power beyond comprehension. He knew instinctively that humanity had access to forces no one else could wield. Overwhelmed, he sent a fragment of his observation back to his civilization, but even that was incomplete, corrupted by the dimensional interference. His report read, "The humans are not merely using machines. Their technology is alive. It bends space, time, and reality. They have survived what no one else could survive. They are something beyond our understanding. Do not confront them." Aboard the Eternity, Kane and Alara were aware of the intrusion from the moment it happened. They observed without confronting, watching the alien navigate corridors, fascinated and fearful. Kane spoke quietly to Alara. "Curiosity is dangerous. It can destroy the unprepared." Alara nodded. "They will tell others. They will spread fear and rumors." Kane's expression was calm but firm. "Let them. It serves our purpose. The galaxy must understand that humanity's return is not ordinary. Knowledge of us carries responsibility. Few are ready to bear it." Meanwhile, the alien scientist returned to his fleet, trembling and unable to explain fully what he had witnessed. Among his peers, some dismissed him as insane. Others were terrified. The story spread quickly, fragmented but terrifying in its content. Humans were not only alive, they had mastered dimensional energy, technology that seemed alive, and methods beyond the understanding of any known civilization. The rumors caused ripples of fear. Draith, upon hearing the reports, slammed his claws against the council floor. "Lies! Deceptions! There is no species capable of this power." But more cautious counselors whispered their doubts. "What if the reports are true?" one asked. "If they are, humanity is no longer a threat we can manage with fleets or diplomacy alone." Kane, aware of the fear his species inspired, used it strategically. He continued his mission of aid and influence, moving from colony to colony, stabilizing worlds, and helping populations rebuild. The subtle message was clear. Humans were protectors, not conquerors, but those who challenged them would find themselves powerless. In private, Kane convened a meeting of his senior scientists and strategists. "We have seen curiosity rise to intrusion," he said. "We must ensure the dimensional core and our technology remain beyond comprehension. Knowledge without readiness is dangerous, for both them and us." Ilara spoke next. "We have seen the limits of their understanding. Few can approach even our ships without fear or confusion. We must use that advantage wisely." Kane's eyes hardened. "Yes, power is meaningless if misused. We protect life, we guide, but we must never allow our enemies, or the curious, to gain what they cannot control." Across the galaxy, whispers of the alive ship and the humans who manipulate dimensions spread to even distant, unconnected civilizations. Entire fleets hesitated to engage, not out of respect, but out of fear. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's technology was more than machinery. It was a force, a living weapon, and a shield that could not be challenged directly. And yet, even with all this power, Kane remained cautious. "We do not act to dominate," he reminded his officers. "We act to preserve and to survive. But every revelation we allow comes with responsibility. The universe is watching, and some are not ready for the consequences." As the Eternity moved silently through space, leaving stabilized colonies behind, one truth became evident. Humanity's survival had granted them more than life. It had given them knowledge, technology, and power far beyond the galaxy's comprehension. And with that power came a responsibility and a secret that, if revealed too soon, could reshape the fate of all civilizations. The alien scientists' terrified report was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen the first hints of humanity's evolution, and the whispers would grow louder. Yet for now, humanity continued its mission, balancing influence, protection, and secrecy. The humans had returned not only as survivors, but as something greater, guardians of a new order, masters of technology that was alive, and keepers of knowledge that most could not even imagine. And in the quiet of the eternity, Admiral Kane looked at the stars and whispered, "The galaxy will learn, but only when it is ready." The galaxy had begun to feel the presence of humanity, not just as a force, but as a shaping hand. Worlds that had been abandoned, torn by war, or left to decay were slowly flourishing under human guidance. Colonies reported rebuilt infrastructure, restored ecosystems, and a return of trade and culture. Yet, even as humanity spread hope, a subtle but alarming shift began to occur. The dimensional rifts, once stable and controlled, started showing signs of instability. Tiny distortions flickered in space near the Eternity's path, like ripples on a pond. At first, scientists aboard the ship dismissed them as minor anomalies, the byproduct of long-term dimensional travel. But as the disturbances grew, it became clear that something more profound was occurring. Admiral Kane called a meeting of his senior officers in the strategy room. "The rifts are destabilizing," he announced calmly, his face grave. "Energy fluctuations are increasing exponentially. If this continues, the very fabric of our universe could be affected." Commander Ilara Voss frowned. Could this be related to the dimensional core? Kane nodded. "Partly. The core has been stable for centuries, but repeated use in our operations is amplifying stress across the rift network. We may be pushing boundaries the galaxy was never meant to endure." The crew worked tirelessly, recalibrating shields and dimensional stabilizers, but the distortions persisted. Outside the ship, stars appeared to shimmer and stretch, space bending unnaturally in areas adjacent to the Eternity. In nearby colonies, strange phenomena began to manifest. Buildings and terrain would flicker momentarily, as if existing in two places at once. Shadows moved independently of their sources. Animals behaved erratically, sensing anomalies humans could barely detect. Panic began to ripple among populations, but Kane and his officers remained focused. "We cannot allow fear to dictate our actions," Kane said quietly. "We must contain this before it spreads uncontrollably." Then came the first direct consequence. one of the colonies, a planet recovering from decades of war, suddenly vanished from all galactic scans. Sensors reported only fragments of data, a blur of energy, and a faint temporal echo before silence. Kane studied the readings, his expression unreadable. "It's not destroyed," he said. "It has shifted, partially phasing into another dimension. But the process is unstable. If we do not act quickly, more worlds will vanish." Ilara's eyes widened. "Can we stabilize them?" Kane's jaw tightened. "We can, but it will require precise calibration and immense energy. Any mistake could amplify the collapse rather than prevent it." Humanity mobilized immediately. Specialized teams equipped with dimensional stabilizers deployed to the affected sectors. Ships hovered over the flickering worlds, their presence acting as anchors. Kane personally oversaw the operation, guiding energy pulses through the rifts to restore stability. As the teams worked, the consequences of their technology became evident. Humans began to experience temporal echoes, visions of alternate realities, where their actions had failed, where entire civilizations had been destroyed. Crew members reported fleeting glimpses of themselves in other dimensions, versions of themselves that had never survived the void. The visions were disorienting, sometimes terrifying, but Kane remained steady. "These are warnings," he said. "We see what could have been. We learn, and we act to prevent it." Despite the efforts, the rifts continued to strain. One by one, minor colonies began flickering in and out of existence, their inhabitants caught between realities. Panic spread among the populations, and even among the alien observers, who had once feared humanity. They could see now that the humans' power, while extraordinary, was not infallible. Kane convened a meeting in the observation deck, his silhouette framed by the bending stars outside. "We face a test greater than any fleet or enemy," he said. "This is not a war of weapons. This is a war against entropy, against instability itself. We must preserve reality, or everything we have saved will be lost." Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "The crew is ready, sir. But these visions, some are shaken. They see other versions of themselves, entire timelines destroyed." Kane nodded. "Fear is natural, but courage is choice. We must hold the line, not for ourselves, but for everyone who depends on us." The operation intensified. Human vessels acted as anchors, stabilizing energy flows across the dimensional network. Crew members coordinated with the Eternity's core, weaving pulses of energy through the rifts to prevent further collapse. For hours, space itself seemed to fight them back. Stars flickered, gravitational waves shifted, and fragments of alternate realities leaked briefly into the current one. Crew members caught glimpses of entire alien empires destroyed, planets burning, and civilizations erased. Yet, through focus, discipline, and the unique knowledge humanity had gained in the void between dimensions, the rifts were gradually stabilized. Kane's voice echoed through the bridge. "Hold the line. Do not let reality fracture. Every pulse matters." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the rifts began to settle. Space calmed, stars realigned, and colonies stabilized. Humanity had survived the first wave of collapse, but the cost was clear. Crew members were shaken, some having seen too much, and the galaxy had glimpsed the fragility of reality itself. Kane addressed his officers quietly, his eyes reflecting the stars. "We have succeeded today, but the rifts are a warning. Power without understanding can destroy everything. We must proceed with caution, and we must teach the galaxy the dangers of the forces we wield." Across the cosmos, whispers spread among alien civilizations. The humans were not only masters of technology and survival, they were keepers of dimensional balance. But with that power came peril. One misstep, one misuse, could collapse entire worlds into nothingness. Humanity had returned as saviors, protectors, and masters of extraordinary forces. But even they understood now that the greatest battle was not against fleets or empires. It was against the instability of reality itself, and the knowledge that even the smallest error could unravel everything they had fought so hard to save. The galaxy held its breath as the humans aboard the UHS Eternity continued their mission, now burdened with a responsibility beyond any fleet or empire. After stabilizing the dimensional rifts, The crew had gained not only respect, but awe from civilizations across the stars. Yet, Kane knew the galaxy's challenges were far from over. Even as the colonies thrived under humanity's guidance, whispers of fear and envy persisted. The Council, led by the ever-resent Draith, had not forgotten the humiliation of their fleets. Secretly, alliances were forming, combining resources, fleets, and intelligence to challenge humanity once more. Kane studied the reports carefully. "They are organizing," he said, voice calm. "We expected this. Preparation is better than reaction." Commander Alara Voss approached, her eyes sharp. "Do we engage preemptively, sir?" Kane shook his head. "No. We demonstrate restraint. Let them act first. When they test us, they will see that our strength is unmatched, not through aggression, but through precision and understanding." The Eternity moved toward the outer colonies, ensuring stability and protection. Humans arrived on a planet that had been war-torn for decades. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble, and survivors lived in fear of marauders. Within hours, aid was deployed. Engineers reconstructed vital infrastructure. Medical teams treated the sick, and security units patrolled to prevent attacks. The people, who had known only despair, began to hope again. Children returned to schools, marketplaces reopened, and the colonies regained life. The display of humanity's power and compassion resonated throughout the galaxy. Draith, observing from his homeworld, seethed. "We cannot allow them to consolidate influence," he hissed to his advisors. "They grow stronger with every world they touch. We must act before they dominate entirely." Yet even his closest allies hesitated. The demonstrations of power, tempered with restraint, had made the humans unpredictable and dangerous in ways no one could counter directly. Draith's fleets were powerful, but the recent display of dimensional mastery had shattered confidence. Humanity could appear anywhere, strike precisely, or neutralize forces without firing a shot. On board the Eternity, Kane reviewed the status reports of colonies across the sectors. "We have stabilized the rifts and protected the innocent," he said quietly. "But our work is not finished. Draith and others will test us. We must be ready for any challenge, any attempt to undermine the stability we provide." Alara looked at him. "They will come, sir. It's inevitable." Kane's gaze hardened. "Let them. Each action they take reveals their nature and weaknesses. Preparation and patience are our allies." As anticipated, Draith launched his first coordinated strike. Small fleets moved toward strategic colonies under the guise of patrols and assistance. Humans, however, had anticipated such moves. The Eternity deployed its dimensional scouts, phasing small ships invisibly into enemy paths. Within moments, the invading fleets were detected, tracked, and neutralized. Ships were disabled, not destroyed, leaving crews unharmed but stranded. The demonstration was subtle but unmistakable. Humanity's reach and precision were unmatched. Across the galaxy, broadcasts of the events reinforced the growing legend. Humanity was no longer just survivors. They were protectors, enforcers of stability, and a species that commanded the respect of all. In council chambers, Draith raged as his strategies failed. "They mock us," he bellowed. "They strike without war, control without force. How can this be defeated?" The light counselor, ever calm, replied, "Perhaps this is the new order the galaxy needs. Power with wisdom, influence without aggression. The humans have endured beyond comprehension. They have survived the void between dimensions and returned not for revenge, but to preserve life." Kane, aware of Draith's frustration, prepared the final phase of his mission. Humanity would consolidate its influence, not through domination, but through example. Colonies were trained in defense, governance, and diplomacy. Trade routes were reopened, education systems rebuilt, and populations given tools to thrive independently. The message was clear. Humans offered guidance and protection, not submission. For Draith and his allies, the lesson was unavoidable. Humanity had returned from the brink of extinction, survived forces no one else could endure, mastered technology that bent reality, and yet chose restraint and guidance over vengeance. Kane stood on the observation deck of the Eternity, looking out at the stars that had once been unreachable. Alara joined him, silence filling the space between them. "Do you think they understand now?" she asked. Kane's gaze remained on distant worlds. "They will. Some will resist, some will fear, and some will follow willingly. But the galaxy will remember today, and every day that follows. Humanity is back, not as conquerors, but as guardians of life and balance." Across the cosmos, humanity's legend grew. Stories of their power, their wisdom, and their restraint spread from colony to empire. The UHS Eternity became a symbol, a beacon of hope and caution, reminding all species that survival required strength, intelligence, and compassion. Kane finally turned from the viewport, his expression calm yet resolute. "We have done more than survive," he said softly. "We have reminded the galaxy that even the forgotten can return stronger than any force, wiser than any ruler, and capable of shaping the future for all." The Eternity prepared to move to its next mission, leaving behind stabilized worlds, thriving colonies, and a galaxy forever changed. Humanity had returned, not just to survive, but to guide, protect, and endure. And in the endless expanse of stars, one truth became undeniable. The era of humanity had begun, and no force in the universe could ignore it.